Hey everybody, it's Aluna Michaels, Esoteric Astrologer, um, coming at you to talk about November of 2023. I am sorry this is a little late. It is the 6th of November, and I'm sorry for the mess in my office. It's going to be a little messy for a few months to move things from room to room for some reason. But, anyways, I wanted to get right to you, and sorry it's late again. But, okay, so, and thanks again to the guys at Know Thyself podcast. Always appreciate you. Thank you. So let's talk about Saturn going direct, which I'm really grateful for. Um, Saturn moved direct on for Friday morning. Today's Monday. And, Saturn, some people go, oh God, Saturn, But Saturn also is about alignment. It's about stability. It's about feeling safe in your body, safe in your mind, feeling grounded, feeling balanced, and feeling a sense of order, like a sense of divine order. Like things can make sense in the universe. If you do A, B happens, and okay. So when Saturn goes forward, and it went direct at the 0 degrees of Pisces, so it retrograded back to the very beginning of Pisces, which when it was retrograde and sort of sitting still all through October, the bad part of Saturn in Pisces can be a lot of worry because Pisces is very imaginative and it can be worrying things aren't going to be good. And of course, there's been all these extreme things going on in the world and stuff. And it can be very worrisome. And you can think worst case scenarios are like, oh, here we go again, or my life is always stinky, or like sort of a old protective thought pattern can come up. And especially if it's Pisces, about the sense of worry or a sense of feeling victimized by circumstances, feeling powerless and helpless. But Saturn moving forward, and the fact that over, every day that goes by, you can feel a different sense of Saturn in Pisces, which is having faith, which is feeling like, somebody up there likes me, and lots of people down here like me too, and that all people's needs can be met. I have a friend who says there's always a solution that nourishes everyone. And that could be the best part of Saturn in Pisces, because Saturn's about compassion and about, world events, or just about, just having compassion for people when they're under stress and things like this. So, I'm not a major world astrologer and stuff, but in general, there can be enough of a pause for yourself to see where you're, warring within yourself, or even in your world with family or friends or whatever, and giving you this sense of poise, letting you be able to get back to self-soothing practices, self-care practices, with eating, with doing yoga or exercising, sleeping enough, stress reduction techniques, connecting with people who are caring, being able to care for others. They say that when you do kind things for others, it's even better than when you receive kind things, like in your nervous system. And even thinking about people doing kind things to others also enhances the person observing the kindness. So kind of looking at that and kind of flowing that kindness around can really start to, ground you in your whole system. And that all being said, the new and the full moons are a little weird this month. And of course, we had the eclipses last month, and I was like, oh God, eclipses. But, they weren't like total eclipses, but they're still bounced a lot of stuff around for people, obviously. But so let's talk about that new moon that comes first. That is going to be the 13th of November, and it's going to be at 20 degrees of Scorpio. The sun and moon, the new moon, they're the same. But the planet Uranus is going to be opposite them. Now, that can be interesting because Uranus is about, change and breakthroughs, but it also can be kind of uncomfortable shifts, So in your meditations, because the new moon is taking new actions, like starting a new project, and the Uranus opposition can be challenging yourself to go out of your comfort zone, and this could be, again, because you're building upon that sense of safety, you're developing in your whole system and getting reacclimated to feeling more cohesive and stuff, that started like the 3rd of November, let's say. And so by the time we get to this new moon, it can be taking some bigger steps, taking some bigger risks, challenging yourself with old beliefs and saying, is this a nurturing thought for me to be thinking for myself? What does this do to me? Or I always think with the moon is also, the self-care things about eating and sleeping. And, are you driving yourself too much? You have too much expectations. You need to scale back holiday plans. Like, does anyone really care if you give them 3,000 presents and like maybe they want 1,000 presents? But like talking to people about maybe scaling back expectations for holidays so you're not running ragged and over preparing, and maybe trying new traditions even that people don't need all this extra stuff that stresses people out with holidays coming in. But there's just a sense of challenging yourself but not overstressing yourself, is I think that balance with the new moon. Okay. And then with the full moon, that will be on write that down, the 27th. Of course, the sun will be in Sagittarius at that point, and then the full moon is always the sun opposing the moon. But the planet Mars is in there. Mars is going to be right next to the sun sign. And then, so Mars opposed the moon, too. And that can be a little bumpy. So that's not Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving is the 23rd. So it's the Monday after Thanksgiving and the full moon. But that can be a little edgy. And I always think when I see things like that, it's like when we have awareness of astrology or whatever, it's like, I'm not saying letting people abuse you, not like that, but cutting people some slack or saying like, okay, these people are really being affected by this moon. Like when you're aware of it, you're like, oh, wow, I feel that full moon with Mars. I'm really, or, extra enthusiasm that can be pushy or aggressive, like too strong. And being able to see people who are even anxious or in a lot of stress or, whatever, and feeling that you can either approach people and say, hey, wow, you're coming across really strong right now, or does this really need to be done right now? And trying to, it's like a lot of managing other people's anxiety, really. That full moon's kind of like, whoo. But another thing that's going to happen is that Saturn, we're talking about the Saturn being in early Pisces, Saturn will be squaring the sun and the moon there, which also can help ground it a little bit. And even if it was, especially if it's people you know really well, and maybe even having an agreement about things get a little stressful, like what kind of, thinking ahead, what will we do if we get arguing? Will we have an agreement, hey, if we start arguing, I'm going to take a walk and come back to the house, or we're both going to go in separate rooms and watch a different Netflix show for an hour and come back. Like having like a preset kind of stopgap can be really helpful. And having that already in there, especially if whenever holiday times get stressful and people or whatever, but just, and to make that like a respect thing together, like, hey, we're both like thinking from the fiery part of our brain. Let's cool down the brains and come back together and have the conversation be more steady and less emotionally reactive. So that Saturn working with that full moon with the Mars with the full moon especially, help to, again, reground and center. And even if you want to start connecting with people about that and, I really want to improve our relationship and what could we do when things get difficult, even maybe if it is a supervisor or something. And, what could we do when we're stressed, or creating a plan, in advance. And people could be thankful for just admitting there's conflict in life. There's conflict in all interactions, and what's the best way we can do that, So that can be something. Another thing is that, did I write down the date of this, the 10th? Okay, so the end of this week, it's just very quick, but Mercury is going to square Saturn. So Mercury in early Sagittarius squaring that early Saturn in Pisces. So Mercury will move into Sagittarius, and just kind of watching out for negative thinking right there. And there's just something with that Mercury Saturn, just maybe even observing, like, what kind of ways could you, again, be more compassionate to yourself. I just think that's kind of this theme with this Saturn being in Pisces. Um, and and watching out for negative words to yourself, because this can almost be a way to head things off at the pass about the new and full moon being a little bit stressful. It's like, how much of it is like constantly berating yourself that's kind of under the radar and gets you into a mild set of fight or flight that you don't even realize you're always in because of the negative words or critical words, because Mercury's a communication, and Saturn, when it's making your heart out, can be critical. And say what kind of positive just affirmations you could say towards yourself, or a way to soothe yourself, like a friend that really understands all of you. If you were telling them about your day, what would they say to you? Like, it sounds like you've had a really hard day. Oopsies, I'm having a phone call. A friend of mine that would say you're having a hard day. But, how would you talk to yourself? Well, excuse me, how would that friend talk to you? And how could you talk to yourself about that and said, you're a jerk, you always screw things up. Ugh. It's like kind of being this compassionate ear to yourself. And that could be part of that Mercury Saturn to then go into the new and full moon that are kind of bumpy. But practicing that self-compassion, and really Saturn is in a sign once every 30 years. And again, if that's the best part of Saturn in Pisces, is being able to live that compassion. So I was thinking that actually Saturn was in Pisces in the mid 60s, when it was kind of like, peace, love, and flower power and things like that. And of course it was there in the 90s too, but I'm just thinking with the 60s, like bringing that to the table, and like, being aware that people are under stress and that we can, love one another, and this kind of a thing. It's Saturn being in Pisces now with high stress, and people are so aware of mental health stressors and mental health awareness and all that, and to kind of bring that to yourself and then bring that to others. And again, not that you're letting people do crazy stuff to you and act abusively or something, but definitely setting healthy boundaries, but also feeling that aware we're all under stressors, and to have that kindness, and especially towards yourself, makes a world of difference. So, Ringo Starr says like peace and love, and it's that kind of idea with Saturn and Pisces, but having it be appropriate because it's Saturn, and to give yourself that arena for it, and not just say only when you really deserve peace and love you get it. It's like you have a constant supply of that, so you can have a better emotional bandwidth for the world. And so it doesn't sound all too Pollyanna or something, but really does help to come from that centered space. We all practice meditation and yoga and things like this. So it's about, taking that out in the world, and not just in those moments where you're doing those things, but really living it for yourself, living it toward others, while still maintaining the healthy boundaries. So I think that's the whole, process that Saturn and Pisces does over the 2.5 years that it's in the sign. So, okay. So if you want to have a session with me, Aluna@alunamichaels.com, or you go to alunamichaels.com. You can call me at 248-583-1663, or text to that number. Try not to put a message on YouTube because I sometimes don't see those. So best to go to my website, which the link will be under here, and call me, text me, send an email. I'm hoping that you have a wonderful November. Thanks for all being on the planet with me. And I really appreciate the people that give me positive comments, because I'm actually terribly camera shy and I just stress about doing my videos. So I always appreciate the good feedback. So, okay, I will see you next month. Bye-bye for now.